I could have used 40mm conduit, but it wasn't available out here in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't have all the tools like hole saws and that for it. But this is a pretty good technique. That there is my guide to make sure all of the cables go in the same as that end there, and here's the other one ready to go for the next piece of conduit. Once I've got to this point, as you can see, everything's perfectly in order, not a single crossover. Just have to rip off the foam, or even one of those little packing things for the wall plugs. These wall plugs that go in there, hold them on. They come in this square thing full of holes. Even one of those. Anyway, once it's done, rip it all off and slide it in the rest of the way. That earth cable is always a pain in the butt. But look at that, look at that. One-handed with the camera, even still possible thing. Usually this is a nightmare of a job. Someone in the toilet caught me talking to myself in this video. About 10 degrees facing south, bit of a walkway there to get to various disconnection points and whatnot. Bit of a walkway down here, that's all I could manage. This one here was encroaching on the gutter, so there's no gap at all, just a tidy little gap there and there. Not a bad effort considering the roof is a bit wonky. This one here, a lot of mucking around. The feet were closer together because of the spacing of those tech screws. So we've got a very sloped back angle there, and a bit of mucking around to get that the same angle as that, about 9.5 degrees. That one ended up being about 10 to 11, but still within the ballpark. So that and that all the same. There's one string that spans all three. 5, 5 and 1 makes 11. Then after that there's 11 straight through there, 11 straight through there, 11 facing south, and the last 3 on there go on the last 8 over the back there facing south to make 8 and 3 is 11. And then there's on that row of 12, we've already mentioned that single one over there goes with the 5 and 5 to make 11. Well, that leaves 11 for there, so we've got 6 strings of 11, and it all very neatly goes in and out of those deck tights down there. Here's a better, can't zoom in. Those deck tights there, in and out all the way without any messy wiring across the roof, as you can see. Just looking at the DC input, particularly input number 3, it's doing 6.5 amps. It's facing south compared to the others. The others are identical, 1 and 2, and one of them's doing a lot more than the other anyway, 24, 25 amps versus 17, 16 amps. Now you'll see PV3 go up to 9.7, which is good, but if you keep watching it, it'll sometimes drop down to virtually nothing. Got to 10 there. It's operating at 520, 30 volts, which is close to VOC too, by the way. I don't know why it's doing that when it can easily... You know what? There's absolutely no cloud in the sky at all. There you go. Perfectly blue sky. There's no reason for this. Should be just sitting around 10 amps or 11 amps or 12 like that. There's no reason for it to jump all the way down to 6.8, for example, there, and then all up to 9.6. It's not like there's an intermittent cloudy day here. What's going on? The next day, it is flying. In fact, the south array early in the morning is doing more than the north-facing arrays at 18.1 amps on the right-hand side there, IPv 1, 2, and 3. It's after 9 AM, probably about 9:30. So, well, what is the time? You can see in the bottom left-hand corner, 9:42 AM. So, I think this algorithm just needed to sort itself out. It's very stable now. Not like when it first started up. So just to finish off this video, I've only got some photos left of the final stage. I've actually made this bracket out of leftover aluminium racking to keep the sun off it. It's under an eave, and it's pretty well under an eave, but when I was installing it, I noticed that facing west, it's going to get sun on it anyway. So that got put on. Look at that.
talk about squaring up corners with your tin feet. I never used these feet on the job. I used tilt rack, but so I had a lot of leftovers. The GM3000 goes with the Goodwee 3000 inverter, but that one will not collect data. It will only restrict export. It's there for export limitation only, and that light there means the comms is working. There's not much feedback on the damn thing. That's me knowing that it's working. That little yellow light to the bottom there. So here we are with the trackers working perfectly again. Here's the south side. This is facing south, doing more power than the north. And when you look at as long as you're not a flat earther, you'll realise that the south is not a bad option when it comes. In this case, it was to squeeze all of those panels on the roof. I could not have everything tilting north because that would create a distance where I need to have to prevent shadows onto the next row. There was no room. Here's my little selfie. There we go. So instead of having distances between rows for shadows, I just went back to back. No shadows at all. What you lose on the panels facing south, you will gain on the panels facing north. So it's relative to a flat mount system, it's going to produce the same yields, but you're not going to have the problem of dust accumulating in the corner, blocking off panels, pooling of water. It's a really good angle to have, 9.5, 10 degrees. So put some tape there, neoprene tape, just for the hell of it. Got the conduit going into the cable gland. I'd prefer to be able to do that all the way along. This here is Runner cable tray. Didn't know about it until recently. It's been out for a year or two. Cheaper than the stuff that they're selling for normal electrical cable tray. That's made by Clenergy. As you can see, much neater this job with the cable tray below, the big whopping DC isolators there. 50 amp ZJ beanies. One isolator does 2 strings, so 2, 4, 6. There you go. And that, if I say south facing there into its own individual tracker, I thought it would be better not to mix more north with south, and it proved to be the case. If we go back to our current here, look at that, south producing more than the north in the morning, and probably in the afternoon as well. So this is what I put on that framework because of the sun. Bit of polycarb roofing to keep the sun off it. And you know what? See these screws here? They could be hexagonal, put on with a socket from the outside, and the inside, where you'd normally put the Allen key, would be a thread to put standoffs to mount that instead of making this elaborate frame, saving time and saving all of their warranty claims. Because so many installers take shortcuts, I couldn't do this. I couldn't put it anywhere else. The south side was full of petrol Bowsers and there's a shop frontage. It was impossible. So in this case, I made the exception of putting it on the west side under the eave and put some covering over it. But no one else bothers with this. So if the inverter manufacturers made standoff type screws that you could screw standoff add-ons onto and then mount an extra cover, an aesthetic extra cover, obviously red with the Goodwee logo on it, that would be a good idea. So what are we doing today? Looks like we're creeping up well over 25 kilowatts here, approaching a peak of, so far today, 27.147. Clouds have hit. There you go. So you've seen my wiring, and this is the wiring that was already existing behind the switchboard there. Typical. Obviously not making enough money because I'm doing quality work, costing me more time. I should be just as shonky as all the others. Shelby Wright, Cashed In, Nawakis, Cheapo, the usual culprits. And as you know, I said that there's no wiring across the top of the roof. In this case, it was better to put it under the canopy or inside the canopy. That's what's inside the service station canopy. Lots and lots of room. So I've got all this conduit going through deck tights, through the ridge, of course, so there's no water entry. And what did the box look like? Oh, I prefabricated this on the ground. It's got a little vent there for water. Big conduit in and outs here. See what's behind the cover. That's it after I neatly tidied everything up. As you can see, I've put line crimps there and heat shrink. You because to pull all that through in one run is ridiculous. There's a bit of in and out here and there to get those strings of 11 when the rows are 8, 12, 14, 16 and 16. Worked out well. If I stuffed that up in my prefabrication on the ground, it would have been chaos on the roof. So this is as good as it gets. It took a long time to do, but I didn't screw up. So that's as good as it gets. More commissioning photos here. Just checking the voltages. I like to take photos of everything and then do my commissioning sheet in front of the computer. Much better. Now I'm testing the polarity here. So this is how I prefabricated the big long DC run full of 6 strings back to the inverter, pulled it through the roof, and I needed to continue at that angle. And it came out along through the roof, came out at that angle and up into the canopy. So I ended up with this pretty big deck tight and bit of 40 by 40 square tubing with a 32mm conduit inside. There it goes, off to that combiner box. Bit of a selfie for the prove that an electrician actually did it. It's so shonky, the industry, that to get the rebates you have to prove an electrician was on site. I should also mention before any nasty comments are left below that I never read, by the way. I'm too busy to give a damn. I never come back and watch my own videos and read comments, so good luck to you. But this was already there, that hole. Otherwise I would have taken off the adjacent panel and put this through a deck tight. But you know what? I like the fact that it had this opening. It's like access for maintenance, and it was facing the second story of the roof of the service station anyway, so no one sees it. So I just went with it, took advantage of the fact that there was a missing panel anyway, and great for access. Better off than on. Yeah, later.